Hi there, I'm Kristen and you're watching the Dahlia Society. Today we're going to be reviewing a lovely dress that I've just made I'm very happy with, and that is the Magnolia pattern from Deer and Doe. I'm going to talk you through the trials and tribulations I've had with this pattern. I actually found it not too bad to make, kind of maybe more of an intermediate make. There's a few things that I actually changed, a couple of things that I left out or might have overlooked. Personally, I love the dress. I've made two variations, as you can see. Variation A, I have made and worn out to an engagement party. It was really comfortable. It was lovely and floaty to wear. I found it to be quite adaptable as far as sizing goes because you have got the tie back. The deep V neck on this one, you can see, is a little bit different to the more of a crossover bodice on the version B. So version A, I've made here in a crepe, which is on the pattern here and has the split up to just above the knee. I found that to be not too bad a height actually, because you've got quite a lot of volume of fabric around it. The sleeves, they're a lovely length. You put the elastic around the bottom if you want that kind of balloon effect. I just find it lovely and drapey, almost like that 70s style boho dress, which is very in fashion at the moment. It's the kind of thing that you can dress up and put a pair of high heels and big dangly earrings, and you can give it that glitz and glamour, that 70s vibe that is just so beautiful to wear. It's comfortable, you feel luxurious in it, and it's elegant. It's a lovely length. The good thing about this at the moment is heading into wedding season. You could put a little fascinator with it, some dangly earrings. You could wear it for a Christmas party. And in Australia at the moment, we're heading to spring racing carnival season, which is with the horse racing. A lot of people dress up and they have fashion on the fields. I personally don't support horse racing in any way, but I love the glamorous side of things, and I love that makers of all kinds come out and they can design their own outfits, and a lot of the milliners making hats. And it's a really glamorous type of way of showing off garment making, which is fantastic, especially do-it-yourself garment making. Other version I've made, I just whipped up yesterday. It was quite an easy make. Once you've made one and you can figure out your measurements and that sort of thing, it's quite easy to make a second one. I wanted to make the fluted sleeve, and I just love this sleeve length because it's very good to wear sort of through a lot of seasons. The fabric I'm wearing here is a crepe from Spotlight. I just thought it was a beautiful, lovely drapey fabric. You can make it in a crepe, any kind of polyester crepe or a rayon viscose. There's quite a lot of fabrics people are making this in. The more fluidity and drapey the fabric, the more the style will just hang beautifully. I suppose if you did it in a linen or a cotton, you'd get more of a structured style dress. But I just love the fact if you're having a fluted sleeve, you'll get the drape when you're using a crepe. With my first version, I actually made a size 46. The sizing, I'll show you the line drawings and the sizing. I'd never made, I think I'd made a Deer and Doe plantain t-shirt, but being in a stretch fabric, in a jersey, this was it was a different fitting issue altogether. But with this kind of structured dress, I thought I'd look at the pattern measurements more closely, because I didn't want it to be too gapey and drapey around the top, especially having that plunged neckline. I actually decided to make a 46 in the bust area, but when I measured my waist, I found it was more of a heading up towards the 50 to 52, and I was really unsure of what to do there because I wanted to have that comfort around the middle section. But because of the waist tie, as you'll see around the back, which I've tied here around the front, you can actually tighten your midriff with tying at the back or bring it right around to the front. So I didn't know how much I had to play with there. So I decided to grade out to the 52 waist and do the 46 bodice. Now, when I actually had it all made up and ready to go, it was actually plenty of room. So I don't know whether I needed to go that far. So the second one, I adapted a little bit more as well. But with the first one, what I decided to do was, because of the, the low V-neck at the front, and it's quite low, it's a bit sexy, but I just found it was very comfortable to wear. I didn't feel like I was gaping at all. I think that the thing with that was with the bias tape that you've sewn on the inside there, it gives you that little bit of structure and it holds it nice and tight, taut there. But one thing I did leave out was in the actual instructions, I noticed there was meant to be 4 pieces cut for the bodice front, and you're meant to sew them together, just probably to give it that bit more structure and weight. But I actually didn't. I just sewed the one piece of each of the bodice, and then I used the bias tape for the edging, and it was fine actually, because for the version B, you only need 1 piece of each. So it's because it's more of a cross the front, it holds you more together. But I'd be interested to make another one next time and do the double bodice, and just to see how much more sort of support it gives you. Another thing I find is because I have shoulder fitting issues with this style, the first one, I actually put a really lightweight shoulder pad, just to the thinnest shoulder pad I could find, because I think it just gives it that nice line, and it sits just on the shoulder. I just stitch that in, and it gives you a little bit more of a statuesque sort of fit, especially if you're with a long sleeve. I think it really gives you a nice line there. Another thing I did too with the side zip, I actually, because I graded out with the waist a little bit more than I had to, the side zip actually that I put in, I didn't even need to use, because I just slipped it straight over my head. So I thought, I don't know if I'd do that again next time, because I knew my measurements and I knew it had worked well. This was my wearable muslin, which was actually quite a good one, because it's actually what I wore out to the event. Next time around, I decided not to bother putting the side zip in, and actually it felt fantastic. I just slipped it over my head again, didn't even need to bother with the zip. But if you're making it straight from pattern and you're looking at the sizing, be careful with that, because if you've got it really fitted in the bodice, you might have trouble getting it over your body once you've slipped it over your head. So the side zip's something that you may want to just leave in for the first one till you get the pattern exactly right. Thing I love about the crepe fabric that I got from Spotlight, it was actually on the clearance rack, believe it or not, $3 a meter, which is pretty good for a dress, 4 to 5 meters for a maxi, which is a lot of dress volume there. You know, $20, $25 for a dress. It's amazing. And this one here, I used about 3 meters. So $15 for a dress again is amazing if you've got your thread and everything there. Talking again about Deer and Doe patterns. If you don't know much about Deer and Doe, they're actually a French company that I've just recently looked into, because I love a lot of their designs. They've got a Myostis, I think was their other dress that was very popular on Instagram. It's just like a smock style dress with a button front and the fitted waist, fitted bodice, and it has little fluted, like ruffled skirts. And I'm looking into making one of those. I just love the fact that there are women that run the company. There's 3 different ladies that run the company, and they do have their patterns in French as well, French or English. But I just think that they're a lovely, they've got a lovely aesthetic, a lovely style to their garment, and very feminine kind of looking garments that you'll find there as well, if that's the sort of thing you're after. They have quite a big size range as well. I think it's 32 to 50, 36 to 52. So it's quite a broad size range. I was up at the top of this size range, but you know, you can work out how to grade in or out depending on your own measurements. So it's worth looking into your measurements and knowing your measurements, because that can then help you when you're looking at a pattern to know what's going to work for you and what's not. And I know I always have issues with my waist being different to my top half and my shoulders. So I just have to look at that when I'm feeling around for a new pattern company that I might want to try. Deer and Doe also have fantastic instructions. I talked about before, they do have French or English in their instructions. I like the fact that they have a lot of visual there, a lot of line drawings, and they talk you through and hold your hand step by step. There are quite a lot of pieces in this particular dress, the Magnolia, but I found it not too daunting to make. And especially I think with having things like the bias binding, just saves a lot of time, and you don't have any interfacings. That's another thing that I think really was a bonus for me. There's not too many fiddly bits to pop in the dress. It's quite straightforward. So I'll pop some photos up of the midi version. A lot of people have made it as per the pattern, which was just above the knee or just on the knee. I prefer a little bit more length to it, so just under the knee. So I've kind of gone down, like I've added about another 10 centimeters onto the shorter version. The maxi version is actually really long, so I'm about 5'6". So if you're any shorter than that, you probably need to take quite a bit off the hem. But the best thing to do is pop your heels on, or the shoes that you're going to wear, before you take that hem off, because once it's cut off, it's not coming back. So always remember, pop your shoes on, measure up, and give yourself that little bit of extra hem, because it really doesn't have much of a hem at all. It's just like a little rolled hem or a tiny little hem on the bottom. So the split was quite easy to make as well. With the split too, because you're really got that extra seam allowance on the sides of the pattern, so you'll see it's quite an easy thing to follow through with the split, and it's really worth it. It gives you that really dramatic effect. I was thinking about making one of the very easy Vogue wraparound styles, and I wasn't sure what to do, but I love the fact that once this is on, you don't have to worry about readjusting it and wrapping it. It gives you that fake wrap effect, but without having that, things falling out and actually having to readjust the ties. And I always feel a little bit like I'm a bit exposed in a wrap dress. When you're walking, you've got to make sure that it's wrapped properly. So this gives it that same dramatic effect as a wrap and the same line, but it's much more comfortable wear. My favourite Magnolia by far on Instagram would be Ginger Thread Girl's gorgeous gold mustard long sleeve version that she's done, and it is really dramatic. It's just the most gorgeous, luxurious looking color on her. It suited her beautifully. I'll pop some pictures up if you haven't seen that one, but that is what inspired me to go and look into this dress. I just love the whole line and the whole vintage 70s boho kind of almost like a disco looking style dress. You have a look at hers. She's Ginger Thread Girl. Gorgeous dress on her. Another thing you might love about Deer and Doe patterns is their patterns are made from recycled paper, which is fantastic for sustainability. If that's something that will win you over, have a look at their paper patterns. What have I been up to this week? Well, I've been doing quite a bit of sewing. One thing I have been doing, I love listening to a good podcast. You may like to look up this podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with Dawn Porter, the famous journalist. She has got her Instagram at Hot Patooties, I think it's called. She has got a podcast all about fashion, and not necessarily what's in fashion at the moment, but like what people wear and what really attracts them to certain clothing. So the podcast was about 2016 it was done in, and she had about 30 or 40 episodes made. She interviews a different person every week and talks to them about what makes them tick in a fashion sense and what attracts them to the clothing they wear, and talks about the style that they love and certain eras they love, because I know with Dawn that she loves her 60s fashion era and she's a collector of vintage clothing, and she's a big ambassador for recycling clothing in thrift stores, and she'll hunt down vintage garments and make them into wearable fashion for herself. So yeah, if that's worth looking into it, and the podcast is called Get It On, so look that up and you'll find it. You can, if you're sitting and sewing, it's another great podcast to listen to. I'm really glad I found that podcast, so get onto that. So if you're looking for a lovely, easy to intermediate sew in a beautiful fluid fabric, something that's glamorous, something that's whimsical and drapey, but a little bit sexy as well, the Magnolia is a pattern to go for by Deer and Doe. So I hope you'll look that up, and I hope you enjoyed my review on it. I'll give you a little twirl of this one as well. But no, I'm really happy with the pattern, and I'll definitely sew it up again. And I think too, having different variations, you could always do the sleeve in a bell sleeve or something a little bit different if you didn't like that elasticated bottom. But I love having different variations of the one pattern, because you can really get your money's worth out of a pattern if you can chop and change lengths, sleeve lengths and that type of thing. So the Magnolia is the way to go for that. Thank you for tuning in again. I hope you're enjoying my episodes. If you really like what you're listening to, just click and subscribe. I am Queen of Dahlias on Instagram, and I'll be popping up my latest makes on there. And I hope to see you next week. See you soon. Bye for now.